The open of the 2021 NFL season may be tonight. It is. It's not maybe. It is tonight. But that does not mean we are abandoning daily fantasy baseball here on the Solo Shot. We will still have shows every weekday at 9 a.m. on the FanDuel YouTube page, at 8 o'clock on Mondays, and we're still going to have it up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed as well. And we're starting things off this NFL season with a 4-game slate tonight with lock at 7:05. Just 4 games. We're trying to avoid the overlap with the NFL. Totally get it. It does mean we're going to have to scramble a bit and use some pitchers we might not usually use. But I do still think there are logical process-based options we can use for today. So let's dive on in and get you set for this Thursday main slate. Welcome on into the Solo Shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down this 4-game main slate once again with lock set for 7:05. All 4 games start by 7:20. So it's kind of like an express slate. If you ever played those on FanDuel, they're a lot of fun. There's a lot of action. All the points are scored in a hurry. I love them. So that is tonight. 7:05 is lock for today with 4 games there. Unfortunately, 2 of them could be threatened by rain. There is a good chance of rain for the Blue Jays and Yankees in New York. Looks like it'll be light rain, which is helpful, but could potentially be wet there. Light rain is also possible in Philadelphia for the Phillies and the Rockies. Looks like that should be leaving before first pitch. We'll have to keep an eye on that one as well. So New York and Philadelphia, the 2 trouble spots for today for rain. We'll see if things pass out of there before we get to first pitch. Before we take a look at this main slate, a lot of good stuff here on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed and the FanDuel Podcast Network in general. We have a new show called Unsportsmanlike Conduct. We have two awesome hosts over there with Gab and Brianna. They are doing a great job. They did their first show last week. Second show is this week every Tuesday. Find that by searching for Unsportsmanlike Conduct wherever you get your podcasts. We also have Girls Who Bet with Aaron Kate Dolan and Olivia Moody. That is every Wednesday night on the FanDuel, I believe, YouTube page. So make sure you find that. Check out what they have to say. I got to hang out with Aaron and Liv in Denver. They were a riot. A lot of fun to hang out with, and I'm excited to listen to that one later on today. So check those out on wherever you get your podcasts, and then the Girls Who Bet show up on the FanDuel YouTube page. We have our NFL DFS podcast for week 1 coming up later on this morning, 10 a.m. on the FanDuel YouTube page, up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed after that. So make sure you go to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts, and then hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Before breaking down pitchers, want to let you know about the FanDuel Sunday Million. The prize pool is a whopping $3.5 million, with first place taking home $1 million. All you have to do is head over to FanDuel today and click on the NFL Sunday Million contest. Draft your lineup of players, sit back, and enjoy Sunday NFL football. Go to FanDuel.com today to participate in the NFL Sunday Million. Eligibility restrictions apply. Go to FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app for more details. Pitching preview for this Thursday main slate. Jose Barrios is the highest salaried pitcher on FanDuel, checking in at $9,100. Huascar Ynoa is $8,800. Ranger Suarez is $8,600. Antonio Zenzatela facing Philly is $8,400. And John Means rounds at the top group. He is $8,100. And looking at this slate, you're not going to find anyone who is like a no-brainer pick. There are no, if we have a larger slate, I probably wouldn't be using any of these guys. But I do think that Huascar Ynoa deserves to be at the top of the list for today at $8,800. Ynoa is facing the Nationals at home. That's a big part of why I like him, because they are the worst offense on the slate. They rank dead last on this slate in WRC plus, isolated slugging, and fly ball rate. Their 23% strikeout rate is not high, but it's also not low. That means it's a plus spot for Ynoa. He came off the injured list 4 starts ago. He hasn't been as good as he was before the injury, but he's still been good. He has not been a bad pitcher, just not quite as good as he was before. Strikeout rate there, 23%. He has a 4.04 skill interactive ERA. He's had decent batted ball numbers, so he's been good, but there is also room for some upward improvement, I think, based on some of the underlying numbers. Specifically, he got some whiffs against the Marlins and the Rockies, a 13.8% swing and strike rate against the Marlins, 14.3% against the Rockies, and he also had 9 strikeouts against the Yankees. That's a really good baseline. And if we get that version of Ynoa tonight, I'll be very happy. But he could also get back to what he was doing before the injury, which was getting a lot of strikeouts. The 3.42 ERA for Inoa in this time is good, and it comes despite a start at Coors Field. That makes me feel pretty comfortable using Inoa tonight at $8,800. He is my top pitcher of the day. Feel pretty good in saying that. Again, the baseline is good, but there is room for him to be even better than that going forward. So Huascar Inoa, number 1 for me. Number 2 is very much a bet on talent versus the matchup. That's Jose Barrios facing the Yankees, and it is a tough spot. They've got just a 98 WRC plus, so they're technically a below average offense, but we know the guys they've got in that lineup. They're dangerous, and it's not a spot I want to attack. It's just hard to pass up the talent in Barrios. Barrios is the top raw pitcher on this slate. His velocity's been down a bit over his past 10 starts, but he still leads the slate in both skill interactive ERA and strikeout rate. It does seem like he's adjusting a bit with the Jays too, learning the ropes with that team. He had 11 strikeouts 2 starts ago. He had 7 the start after that. So he's got the best ceiling on this slate. Like if you're talking about who could score the most FanDuel points, like raw ceiling, that is Barrios because of the talent. He just has lower odds of reaching it than Inoa due to the matchup. Still, Barrios has 6+ strikeouts 8 times in this 10-start span. He has 8+ 3 times. So I like his outlook a lot. I just wish it weren't against the Yankees. It's still enough for me to put him second, but that's why he's second and not first above Inoa, even though I feel better about the talent that Barrios does possess. Number 3 for me is going to be Ranger Suarez. Not a guy I thought would have any strikeout upside until recently. And he still might not have strikeout upside, Suarez, but he has at least gotten some strikeouts recently. And on a 4-game slate, I can take some. Those games came against the Rays and the Marlins. Both those teams love to strike out. So not a shock that he got strikeouts there. But against the Rockies tonight, they're not a high strikeout team, but they're also not a big threat. Strikeouts are partially, extrapolation and hope based for Suarez, but we know the batted ball data will be good. We're extrapolating and hoping for the strikeouts. We don't have to hope for the fly ball rate and stuff like that. We know that's there. In his 7 starts, Suarez has a 21% fly ball rate allowed. His hard hit rate is 32%. Strikeout rate is 23%, which is not bad for this slate. The concern that I have for Suarez is length. He's got the pitch count. Pitch count's fine. He went 99 and 95 in his 2 of his past 3 starts, but he walks too many guys. That drives up his pitch count and gets him out of games earlier, which is an issue because length does matter a lot for DFS, but it is a 4-game slate. It lacks quality pitchers. I am okay going to Suarez number 3 despite those downsides. I do think that he is pretty solidly behind Inoa and Barrios, and I would say, I wouldn't be shocked if I wind up using just those 2 guys for tonight. It's risky, but I'm kind of okay with that for MLB. If you're not, only play with you're okay losing. And if they both bomb, whatever, I think that's probably okay for tonight. So to me, it is Inoa 1, Barrios 2, Suarez 3, but he might not wind up being in my player pool for today. Stacks are a bit better than pitching for today, which makes sense given that, pitchers are bad. Probably means stacks are better. They are. And the first one is the Braves. I was on the Braves last night. Didn't go all that well. Got a couple dingers or got a dinger in there. But I think that it wasn't ideal. I still want to go back there once again tonight. They're facing Eric Fetty. Fetty has some decent peripherals recently, but most of that is due to a low walk rate. In the 9 starts with more sliders, Fetty's walk rate is 5%. That helps him get a 3.94 skill interactive ERA, which is actually the second best number on this slate, but it's a misleading number. His strikeout rate is low at 22%, which means when you combine that with his walk rate, he's letting up a lot of balls in play. And 43% of those balls in play are hard hit. Fetty does get some ground balls, but he doesn't get enough to offset the bad in the rest of his profile. His ERA in this time is 5.20. That is with 6 unearned runs scoring, so not counting towards his ERA. He's facing the Braves tonight. They're easily the most powerful team on this slate. They lead it in both ISO and fly ball rate by a pretty decent margin. You put that in a good park for hitting, and things are probably going to go well. The Braves scored 5 runs, 4 of which were earned against Fetty a month ago, and I think they could do well once again for tonight. So the Braves, to me, are my number 1 stack. When you look at the Braves the Braves batters, look at the guys here, how they do versus righties. The guy I would downgrade the most relative to lefties is Jorge Soler. And don't get me wrong, I still like Soler, but his ISO versus righties go down to 153, which is about half what it is against lefties. So if we're ranking out the players in this Braves stack, I would be more likely to go with Adam Duvall over Soler. I'm not saying don't use Soler. Soler's awesome. He's a powerful guy in a very good lineup that I want to stack, but it does slide him down a bit for me. So deprioritize Soler a bit, still keep him near the top of your list because he's very good. But I think if you're weighing him relative to Albies, Freeman, Duvall, guys like that, Riley and Swanson as well, it's okay to push him down a bit due to his numbers versus righties. I'm going to put the Orioles second on this list, and I say that while acknowledging that there are some issues here. I just think that they are the second best option. They're facing Carlos Hernandez, and now Hernandez has pitched well since joining the rotation for the Royals. In his first start, didn't throw his cutter or his slider much, his 2 wipeout pitches, and he's leaned more on them recently. So the most relevant sample for Hernandez is the past 8 outings with those pitches being more of a factor. And in those starts, Hernandez has a 2.80 ERA. And that's likely due to his good batted ball numbers. He has allowed a 34% hard hit rate and a 37% fly ball rate in that time. Both those are solid marks. So it's not a fluke that we've seen Hernandez get good results. I'm just not entirely sure it's a lock to continue. The primary counterpoint to Hernandez continuing to be good is his plate discipline data. In those 8 outings, he has a 19% strikeout rate. His walk rate is 8%. And his strikeout rate and walk rate are both the second worst numbers on this slate. His skill interactive ERA ranks last by a good margin. He's facing a pretty solid, I would say, Orioles team. They have a 97 WRC plus against righties with a 171 ISO. They can get the job done, even if they're not a great team. And I think that we should take swipes at them here and hope this really fun series from a DFS perspective keeps on going. So back in on the Orioles for tonight. If you're looking to mitigate Hernandez's good batted ball numbers, I would favor lefties by a bit here. They have a 38% fly ball rate against him since he moved in the rotation. For righties, it's 36%, goes down a bit. And the strikeout rate also goes down 3 ticks versus lefties, which means we don't have to abandon righties. Like, they're still fine against him. But I would be okay bumping up the lefties. Anthony Santander, Cedric Mullins, they are always good options, but I think even a little bit better tonight. And then DJ Stewart, if he plays. The Dong Jockey Stewart, if he plays, going to be a solid option. Someone recommended on the Q&A yesterday, we call him B Stew. And I like that. DJ Stewart, B Stew, Dong Jockey, whatever you prefer. I think that he works for today. So I think that I am on board with the Orioles broadly, but Stewart, Mullins, and Santander specifically. For the third stack, I'm going to go with the best offense on this slate. Wild idea, I know, and that's the Jays. They are the only team with an above average WRC plus versus the opposing pitcher's handedness. They're up at 111, so well clear of average. They're facing Nestor Cortes, which is not the world's best matchup, but Cortes is flawed in some senses. There are some issues, minor ones. He's a good pitcher, but there's some issues here if we're looking at a small slate. The big one is fly balls. Cortes has been throwing more cutters over his past 5 starts. In that time, he has allowed a 52% fly ball rate. That is the highest on the slate by about 7 percentage points. And it's led to 6 home runs allowed across 5 games. And that's an issue that Cortes has had all year. He's let up a lot of fly balls all year long. It hasn't really mattered, though, because he didn't let up a lot of hard contact. That number is rising a smidge. His strikeout rate is coming down a bit. So I think Cortes is a good pitcher, but he's facing the Jays as a lefty on a small slate. If we look at, difference-making totals for a small slate, you just want dingers. I mean, that's true for every slate, but especially on a small slate, I want dingers. And I think the Jays have a high probability of getting dingers for tonight. So this is less about Cortes than it is about the offense we are stacking here. I just think that the offense good enough against his handedness to feel good about them, despite the fact that I do respect what Cortes can do. I am good with all that and ranking the Jays third for tonight behind the Braves and the Orioles. Obviously, the Jays' salaries are hard to get to even on this slate where we have our pitchers in the low 9,000, high 8,000 range. That's what will make Randall Grichuk so key at $2,600. No matter where he hits in the order, he could hit 8th. I won't care. I'm going to use him. It also makes Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen options. That both those guys have hit for some power in a small sample against lefties. Kirk is $2,600. Jansen is $2,500. I am down to use either guy to make this stack work. So I do think that Grichuk is the priority over them, but I do like Kirk and Jansen to save us some salary for today. We have not talked about two different pitchers in the slate, so let's just close up them on things to watch. The two guys we have not discussed are John Means and Antonio Senzatela. Between the two, I'm more inclined to stack against Means, mostly because he lets up a lot of fly balls. He has increased his curveball usage over his past 7 starts, and he's let up a 46% fly ball rate in that time. That is the second highest number on the slate behind Cortez. He does have a 23% strikeout rate, which is good relative to other pitchers in the slate. The Royals, not a great overall team, but they have some individual batters who can bang lefties, specifically Salvador Perez, who always hit some runs, Alberto Mondesi. All these guys are good against lefties. Eduardo Olivares, if you want to save some salary. So I think the Royals are the number 4 stack for tonight. Number 5, it's the Phillies facing Senzatela. He just doesn't let up as many fly balls, a 27% fly ball rate and 10 starts with increased velocity. He also doesn't get strikeouts, though, which is why I am okay stacking the Phillies tonight. I would just rank them 5th in terms of the order because of the lack of fly balls that Senzatela allows. Let's finish up here today with the dinger calls for tonight. We're going to go with Freddie Freeman for the boring one. I think I had Freddie Freeman sometime this week as well, but let's go back to it. I will say Fetty does have a better ground ball rate versus lefties than righties, but Freddie Freeman's a good baseball player. So we'll go Freddie Freeman as a home run call for the boring one. As far as the fun one, I'm going to do something we did earlier on this year. There was a game where I wasn't sure who would catch for the Twins. So I said Twins catcher, and we wound up getting a couple of homers. I think that Mitch Garver had one, and then Williams Astudillo may have had one as well. So for today, we're going to say the Blue Jays catcher, because I don't know if it'll be Kirk or Jansen, but I think that whoever it is going to go deep. I like the power profile. I like the matchup here against the fly ball pitcher, like the park for home runs. So home run calls for today are Freddie Freeman and whoever catches for the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. That is all that we have here for today on the Solo Shot. We do have a Q&A coming up later on today, just a slightly different time than usual. We're going to have a preview of the Bucks and the Cowboys at 4 p.m. I'll be talking single game DFS, props, overall betting stuff. That is for Bucks Cowboys, 4 p.m. on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. After that, at 4:30, I'll talk MLB DFS. That'll be our schedule for Friday as well. So, new schedule for MLB on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is 4:30 to 5 talking MLB DFS with our Q&A. So make sure you subscribe there. Also make sure you subscribe to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. NFL podcast later on today. If you're watching on YouTube right now, hello. Stick around back at 10 a.m. to talk some NFL DFS. Should be a whole lot of fun. If you've got questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcasts. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. Enjoy the games before the NFL game starts. Enjoy the NFL game once that's going. Win some money. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to close out the week. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.